Hola, spooky nerds, and welcome to another Talking Strange, a paranormal pop culture show with the Den of Geek Network, where we discuss the entertainment of the unexplained. I am your host, Aaron Sagers, a journalist, author, researcher of all things weird, and currently I can be seen on travel channels and Discovery Plus's Paranormal Caught on Camera, now in its 5th season. But we are here to talk about a different level of paranormal, the hit show Ghosts. It airs on CBS Thursdays at 9 p.m., 8 Central, and it streams on Paramount Plus. And it has already been renewed for a second season. Plus, new episodes are returning on February 24th. This is all very exciting. A couple weeks ago, we were fortunate to speak to the stars of CBS's Ghosts, Rose McIver and Utkarsh Ambudkar, as well as the showrunners, Joe Port and Joe Wiseman. And we had so much spooky fun that we were not ready to give up the ghosts. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in these ghosts and we're going to have a little bit of a chat and also get some fan solicited questions. So without further ado, we have Brandon Scott Jones. He plays Captain Isaac Higginfoot. Here we go. We've got Richie Moriarty, who plays Pete. And I'm going to keep moving through this. There's a lot of people to get through here. Asher Grodman, he plays Trevor without pants. We've got Sheila Carrasco, who plays Flower. We've got Rebecca Wisocky, who plays Hetty, the lady of the manor. And also, last but certainly not least, Devan Chandler Long, who plays Thorfinn. Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
Hey Aaron.
Yeah.
We are all here. It took me a second to get through everybody, but I guess we have now arrived in the space. And you know, as I said, we are currently right now we're missing Danielle, who plays Alberta, and Roman, who plays Sisapis. They were not able to join us today, but we are going to have to catch up with them at a later date. But we asked for fan-submitted questions, and all of the fans answered in a most spirited way, so we will be asking some of those shortly. But to begin, my question is, the ghosts have been around for a long time with one another, and yet it's only with this arrival of Jay and Sam that they seem to be addressing some of their long-standing issues. It's almost like they're finding their life and their humanity in the afterlife. What is it about the introduction of these livings that is forcing them to confront their issues? I'm going to start with Brandon. Why don't you take that one?
I think what it is about the livings is, one, at the end of the pilot, one of them actually has a supernatural almost accident that allows them to see us. And so for the first time, we in hundreds of years, for some of us, we are actually able to be seen, and we're actually able to affect the outside world around us. And so I think we're really trying to seize the day. We have no idea what day that is, because we've all gone insane living for hundreds of years in that house. But we know today is now, and we are going to try to make the most of it. And I think there really is this, I mean, whenever you're dealing with ghosts, I think it's interesting to talk about unfinished business and the reason you haven't passed on. And I think, unlike most ghosts, we've been given the opportunity to maybe make some changes, or maybe see an opportunity to get us to move on to the next step of whatever this is, and get us out of purgatory.
Okay. Well said. Well said. Does anyone else want to add to what it is about these livings? I mean, and not just any livings. You do have Sam and Jay, who are very kind of particular people that if other couples had moved in, there might be more of a clash or a different kind of interaction. So anyone else want to weigh in on what it is about these livings that kind of add to your afterlife?
I'll say from my character's perspective, just real briefly, it's significant that Rose McIver's character, Samantha, is a distant relative of mine. And so I think that opens certain things up for me and my character, thinking about her own kind of torqued sense of legacy and what that is. And that's what I'll add to the discourse. I think Brandon Scott Jones's answer was really, really quality.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca Wisocky.
I think that was a great one. I do think specifically for Devan, Thorfinn's been around for the longest amount of time. He's the oldest ghost, if I'm correct. So and it seems like he's even picking up on idioms and sayings and whatnot as we move along throughout the show. But how is he evolving as a character beyond perhaps evolving, much like he has evolved beyond just talking about COD? How has he evolved emotionally, psychologically?
Thor's a bit slow to evolve. He takes his time, but there's going to be an episode coming up where he has to deal with some skeletons in his closet, and he doesn't really, he keeps everything real close to the vest, and so he's going to have to do a little therapy to kind of try to work out those demons per se. But yeah, I mean, Thor, the way they're writing him and the way that he's coming along, I mean, it's just so much fun to play him, and the writers and the producers and everyone, they just give us so much great material to work with, and it's just to watch these character arcs kind of just build every week. It's just so much fun to behold. Is he going into therapy or therapy? Yeah. Yes, therapy. That is the name of it. Very clever. I feel like I wish that I could summon Thor. Sometimes I feel like just the growls of Thor are contagious. My number, and you could text me anytime, and I'll just show up whatever you need me. Yeah. Maybe even make the lights flicker a little bit. Thor? What would you summon Thor for? When would you need him? Well, I guess summon lightning. That would be a very Thor thing to do, or messing with electricity. No, I find for each of your characters, actually, and I think this is part of what really works with the ensemble, is that there's something relatable about each of the ghosts and both humans, the livings. But there are times with Flower, I just want to channel her ability to be in the moment and totally just enjoy it. But with Thor, just those kind of primal level of growls, I think, are very satisfying and cathartic. They are. And honestly, that's there's a lot of Thor that lives in me on the day-to-day. So
I was going to say, Aaron, I think you just want to be Devan. I think that's what you really want. That's what we all really want.
We all, yeah. Well,
walk around in leather and belts, yell. Drink meat. Maybe not the pelts. I think that could get, well, maybe not where you guys shoot, but I think it could get a little bit too warm. But we'll get to outfits. We'll get to costumes momentarily. This fan reaction to the series, it's just been really remarkable, including you got Luke Skywalker talking about this show as a fan. And that was actually one of the things that our other fans wanted to know about. What was it like getting a shout out by Mark Hamill?
It was crazy. I mean, Mark very graciously wrote a tweet about the show in general and how much he was enjoying it. And then as we all got word of this, we were all freaking out individually and on our group text thread, like, what's happening? Luke Skywalker loves the show. But then he individually shouted all of us out and what he loved about each character individually and our performances individually. I mean, it was like we were joking. We were like, has he been paid by somebody? Like, is CBS giving this man $1 million to give us all huge props? It was incredible. It was so cool. Like, what a cool thing to have a hero from growing up love the thing you're working on.
Yeah. I don't want to weigh in on getting a shout out by Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, who's also just one of the nicest guy on social media, period. Somehow on Twitter, he has managed to be a bright spot.
Totally.
Yeah, no, it was wild. I think he got so specific with all of his compliments that it proved that he actually does watch the show. So that made us feel a little better, like, oh, wow, this is really genuine. But he's also he's so funny, and I loved his arc on What We Do in the Shadows recently, and I've just always been a fan, and so just to have someone of his caliber and kindness shout out to us was really, really nice.
And dare I say, one of my favorite Jokers of all time. I think his voice as the Joker is the best.
The best.
I think that's a very fair assessment. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Yeah. So, and I think he did a guest appearance on Vikings, or maybe it was that may have been another show. But I was gonna say once Thor sees that episode, he's gonna have a real freak out. Sheila, let me stick with you for a moment. What is in store for Flower? We've obviously seen a lot of her easygoing attitude, and the Joes mentioned there might be something in store with her free love that we'll get to learn a little bit about. But she does show a little bit of an aggressive side coming up soon. Or
she does, yeah. Flower's one of those people where she's loving and kind and so accepting of everyone until like there's just a line that you cross. And I think it's really interesting to explore what those really specific things are for her and what she takes personally, because she's so good at letting most things go or just being oblivious to them happening. But I think we're going to find out a little bit of some of her issues with intimacy, and maybe that she actually has some trouble weirdly connecting with people, even though she's such a lover. And I think we're going to find out a little bit of more of her history, like more about, I don't want to give anything away, but more about what matters to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and there's this interesting dynamic of Richie and Flower with an assist by Hetty as well. So Richie, what's Pete's interaction looking like with Flower coming up?
Pete's in this really interesting position where he still has some overlap with life experience with Jay and Sam because he died in the 80s. So Jay is like familiar with some of the references that Pete knows and loves, especially from the basketball world. Pete is a big basketball fan. And when he discovers that Jay is a fan, he's very excited that they can like watch games together, while communicating through Sam. And yeah, we also learned that Flower may also have an interest in basketball, which Pete was formerly unaware of.
There we go. He said it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking I couldn't say that.
Sue me, CBS.
Rebecca, you're part of this as well, though.
Well, and offer an assist, if you may. I see what you did there.
Thank you. I worked hard on that one.
Is nothing if not a sportswoman. I'll say too, and I hadn't thought about this till now. It's also interesting too because we think of Pete as being such a voice of kindness and fairness and light, and yet his position when it comes to Flower and sports is one that maybe betrays a little bit of a disparity in perception of the sexes and gender roles of the 80s. Would you say that's true, Rich?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it blows Flower's mind that with all the work that she was a part of in the 60s, that someone in the 80s could still be sexist. And it's also so sad to think of it that way. But it was really nice to have that moment with Hetty where we connect about speaking up and standing up for yourself, and that even people like Pete just need to be reminded of that, and people still need to be reminded of that. So
I love those moments between Hetty and Flower because they're two people that really have no right to be in the same room together ever, right? They so profoundly don't speak the same language, and yet they're still kind of drawn to each other. And I love the way Flower continues to persist in coming to Hetty for advice. So
she will win her over.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I meant earlier as well, that it's fascinating to me that these characters have been occupying the same space for so long and yet may not have actually been operating as friends, sort of reluctant roommates. But it's only now with the introduction of the livings that they're developing these friendships, these bonds that really we didn't necessarily get the hint of before. I think that's really interesting. And we also have the interest in outfits here. And I'm going to bring up a question from two of our fans about who gets outfit jealousy from whom, and do any of your outfits itch? And And Asher, I'm going to hold you for the last for that one.
Okay.
but who wants to? I mean, Brandon, Rebecca, I feel like you might have the most to say about this, but who wants to begin on that?
Yeah, I'll say that the outfit jealousy, I get it from Richie's character, from Pete, simply because we were having conversation outside of our trailers one day, and he was like, yeah, it takes me like 3 minutes to get out of my costume. And I was like, what? And so with me, it's a much more complex process. Just going to the bathroom, there's a lot of buttons, and they're practical buttons. They're not just decorative. So I definitely get outfit jealousy from Richie. And does my costume itch? I will say, when it's hot, you bet it does. It absolutely itches, and it gets sweaty, and it's essentially just one of the it's a material that you're familiar with until you're put into an uncomfortable situation where you don't understand how it exists, where you're like, I can't believe our soldiers used, because this is like our costume designer did an incredible job, did an absolutely amazing period work, made it true to form, everything like that, unbelievable, bonsoir. But I will say that if I was a soldier in that era, which I'm playing, I would have died on the battlefield immediately in the middle of July in Virginia or something like that. You know, I remember as a kid going to like Williamsburg, Virginia to like walk around Colonial Williamsburg with my family and being like, I am going to pass away in front of my parents at age 10.
And you were wearing cotton then.
And I was wearing cotton. Actually, yeah, I was wearing full cotton. So it was unbelievable to me that this was what America was like, yeah, let's fight in this.
Hey, it's convenient when you're in New England during the winter, maybe just not.
Or
Montreal.
Tell you, Aaron, I was miserable in the heat, love it in the cold, and it gets freaking cold in Montreal, and I was warm. There was like 1 or 2 days where I was outside and everyone was like bundled up, and I was like, oh, I guess it's cold.
And again, we'll hold Asher for that one. But Rebecca, Devan, do you have any thoughts about how comfortable are those outfits that you each wear?
I think Rebecca's got the worst. You're miserable. You have a corset, right, Rebecca?
Interesting pronunciation. Yes.
I just couldn't finish my sentence. That's all.
Do I seem miserable? I love my costume. It really helps me become this character. It is horribly uncomfortable and somewhat socially isolating because people are so scared to step on me. But everyone.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because I have the bustle on the train. But I love my costume very much, and it's a love-hate relationship. I love that we never really have to have costume fittings, the ghosts, and it's one kind of thing, especially as a lady, you don't need to think about. Like I know pretty much what I look like in the corset.
I love my outfit. I couldn't. More leather, more fur. Honestly, I feel so comfortable in it. It's my little moccasin shoes I get. They're contoured to my big old fat hobbit feet. It's just fantastic. I roll around. I got all these pouches, and so obviously as actors we have things we take with us like cell phones. So I get to have like little things. I got a little fanny pack. I got all kinds of stuff on me, and everyone else, they can't put any things in their pockets. So
that's my one complaint with how gigantic my costume is and how many furrows and things in place. I don't have a single pocket.
Yeah, I can fit under it.
That's kind of her thing.
I think we've waited long enough. Asher, we have to hear about your outfit because your costume is somewhat revealing, but also the Joes said this is the question that they get the most on social media. Everybody wants to know about Trevor's trousers. Take it away. Talk to us about how much you like your outfit and what's in store for, lack of, and what's in store for Trevor.
What's in store for Trevor? We're going to get the official dive. The origin story of the trousers is on its way. I don't think I can say when it's going to happen. I think I'll say this. I'll say it's going to be after Purim and before Passover. I can say that.
Okay.
But I really like my costume.
So Lent.
So Lent. I really like my costume. Even in the blizzardy, wintry Montreal cold, I get to have fun with different pants that I wear. Different sport, they put things on me to keep me warm so I don't freeze, which is very nice. The thing though is in the summer with the bugs. That's the thing. And Montreal bugs don't listen to bug spray. They just go, and then it's not a pretty picture.
This should be talked about more, actually. The bugs in Montreal.
Oh yeah,
they're awful.
What are you guys talking about?
I did not think they were bad either.
What?
No, I
Not
know
me
what?
at all.
Is this a
Richie
bit?
and I are tasty, which clearly you're not. So
I am very tasty in California. I get eaten by mosquitoes like crazy. In Montreal, I wasn't bitten once. So
Well,
I'm not necessarily talking just about mosquitoes, but I've never seen more spiders in my entire life.
Wow.
they do have a spider problem.
the yellow jackets. I've never seen
Yes.
yellow jackets in November.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Crazy.
They actually have a spider season in Montreal.
I have this vivid memory of Richie in the tents whenever we would have outdoor shoots, and he'd be like on his phone, like, what?
Yeah.
Go and zip it.
They're all
Well,
over me.
I mean, not to disagree with you, Rebecca, but to be fair, Brandon, you, Devan, each of you could very well be just swarmed by mosquitoes, and you would never know. It would never bite through your costume. Whereas both Richie and Asher, they're exposing more skin, so they're
Sheila,
bigger targets. They're more vulnerable.
Solid
you,
point,
Aaron.
Aaron.
Thank you.
However,
Yeah.
this also happens in real life as well. I think that there's some interesting thing that someone in your community should be investigating regarding the dietary habits of Canadian mosquitoes.
Yeah. I also
Well-
just covered myself in DEET, which is probably not a good thing to do.
No.
No, that would be a very unflower thing to do.
Very
Sheila, I
unflower.
think,
Seriously.
yeah. Well,
I don't know.
and actually, here that was a pretty good layup for me, Rebecca, because what's also just kind of so fun about this show is that everybody, whether you're a believer in ghosts or a skeptic, everybody can come and enjoy something with this show. But I will say, as someone that is a journalist that also operates within the paranormal world, there are so many fans within the paranormal community that are fans of this show. And one of them actually submitted a question. His name is Shane Pittman. He is from the show Holzer Files on Travel Channel, loves the show. Have any of you had a paranormal experience? I feel like you're getting this question a lot, but when it comes from a bona fide ghost hunter such as Shane, I have to ask it. Anyone have an experience they want to share?
Evan.
Dev, hit it up.
Hey, man. When we first got up there in July, everyone, you get to choose where you live. And so I chose this place in Old Town Montreal. And the building is from like the 1800s, and a lot of characters, really cool, a lot of exposed brick. And, the first 2 weeks were really rough in this place. The first night, there's like an old antique guitar that was like hanging on the walls like an ornament, and the guitar string popped off at 4 a.m. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, whatever, And then the next night, like I heard like my shower curtains in the bathroom like rustling, and I was like, what? Is there a draft? Like what's going on? And then for the next 2 weeks, every night, in the witching hour, 3, 4, 5, 8, things would wake me up. Things would fall. I would, like bottles would, like plastic bottles. Not that I use those if I had one, but because those are bad for the environment. But if I had, they might have, made loud noises. Just weird experiences that never allowed me to sleep. And when you get to the place when your body knows something's wrong, and your mind is kind of like you try to like come up with every excuse of rationalization of why. Oh, this is what. It got to a point after like 5-6 days of just random things happening every night, waking me up, and just weird noises that I just kind of was like, I think this place is kind of haunted. And it didn't go away. And then my wife, who lives in Los Angeles, she wasn't up there with me at the time. She told me, she's like, you just got to introduce yourself to the ghost and just kind of like say, hey, guess what? You know, I'm Devan. Like, I'm here actually working on a show about ghosts, and maybe, you know, we can come to an agreement, you know, and just introduce herself. And I did that. I introduced myself, and it kind of dwindled off and stopped. And yeah, did I see a ghost? No. Did I feel like there was something going on? Yes. Did I like lay in my bed, like scared many nights, like what's going to happen? Yeah, absolutely. But it went away, and I'm here to talk about it.
What I love about that response is that I'm sure Rose and Ukarsh have already heard that story, but when I was doing the interview with them, and I asked, would you believe your spouse if they or partner or whatever if they told you they saw ghosts? They were talking about it, but then they automatically leapt to you and said Devan would totally believe his wife, and then ask if the ghost was hungry and if it's doing keto. So I think you just kind of confirmed that.
There was a lot of conversation that I'm gonna omit from this podcast that I had with the potential ghosts or just with myself, and we became really good friends.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
You have to establish boundaries, I think.
I have a cool ghost story that I'll toss in for this one. I have never had an experience in my life, but apparently in the state of New Jersey, there is a book that catalogs like 10 haunted houses. Mm-hmm. And one of them I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
And the story was that they were Revolutionary War ghosts, Brandon's people, who would guide fellow soldiers through the wood, through the swamp during the war.
Yeah.
When I grew up, we had like noises and everything, and then we opened up the attic, and there were 300 bats living in the attic of the house. And because bats are protected animals, they had to open it, mm-hmm. and then just invite the bats out. And so they just watched and counted them. There were like 314 bats or something.
Yeah.
One by one flew out.
I don't know how one invites bats to leave, but
just open the door and say
politely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Please. Oh, I had a ghost experience the final week we were shooting in Montreal. We were staying in this old hotel, and it's hard to say if it was an experience, but it was just a really terrible nightmare while we were staying there. And in my dream, I was battling with a ghost that was haunting my hotel room, like my actual room I was in, and it was like holding me down. We were in this full-on fight scene like Michelle Rodriguez in Fast and Furious, and it was all over the room. And I woke up like in a sweat, and I was so panicked. And I woke up and I was like, I think in my dream, I was trying to find the words to like get the ghost to leave me alone. And then I reached over and looked at my phone, and it was 3:33 a.m.
Okay.
Which, if you know anything about ghosts, like that's like, or evil ghosts, like that's the time that they shine or something. And I got so freaked out. I hid under the covers and then finally went back to sleep. And I texted everyone in the cast the next morning, like, did anyone else have like a really scary dream? I think this hotel is haunted. I need to switch rooms. And then calmed down, had breakfast. And then around like 1 p.m., I was like, I don't want to pack up all my stuff. It takes too much energy. So
the time of the shinning. But
mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a great story. And I would say it is a nice compliment to, was it Joe Wiseman's sleep paralysis story, which as he was getting into it and he was unveiling all these details about his experience, it's like, dude, I don't know that was sleep paralysis so much as you may have actually had a paranormal encounter because of the ask him about it. It's incredible. Yeah, it's creepy.
Called being ridden by the witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thing I went to college at Oregon, and I stayed in a house that everyone was like, yo, it was my first house I moved to off campus, and it was with like 5 other football player dudes. We know, just trying to stretch a dollar. And everyone was like, yo, this house is haunted. I was like, I can't afford anything else, so I'm in. And I got like the bootleg kind of like makeshift closet room. Just like, here, you could have this. I mean, literally, it shouldn't have been a bedroom. And I stayed there, and within the first few days, like I had a thing where I woke up and like my sheets were off me, and they were on me when I went to bed, and I couldn't move, and I had like an old CD player thing that like didn't have a remote. Like you had to like physically turn it on and off, and it had turned on later after this experience. Like I couldn't wait. Then I got up. I was like, "What was that?" And then I kind of drifted back to sleep, and then my CD player turned on. It was Journey, of course. So Don't Stop Believing, and it was a great song, but not at that hour. And just and I was like really freaked out by that. And then I looked into it, and I guess Ridden by the Witch, is that what they call that? Or
Yeah, there's that old hag syndrome. It's there's a lot of different names for it, and what's fascinating about it is that pretty much every culture reports some version of it. Now you could just say it's sleep paralysis, but what I find so fascinating about sleep paralysis is that scientifically we have a theory about what's happening, but and maybe why, but science has yet to really explain precisely what's going on. So it does remain a bit of a medical mystery and anomaly. So I find the notion of it quite creepy, but let's go back to another fan question, or otherwise I'm going to just ask you all sorts of paranormal questions. One of our people, one of our fans wants to know, Nicole wants to know, what time period would you like to meet other ghosts from? I mean, you guys pretty much run a good gamut, but there are some gaps of decades and centuries. Any that you'd like to meet? Richie, I haven't heard from you for a few minutes. Why don't you chime in?
I feel like Pete would always be thirsty for more 1980s ghosts. Like Pete really gets off on, making references from TV and basketball and having that be echoed back at him. So I feel like Pete especially would love just more 1980s references about the house.
Sheila, how about you? Would Flower just want more hippie ghosts, commune ghosts to hang out with, or what would she want? What would you want?
Absolutely. I think she'd want more hippies, and she'd like to form her own cult and just like have more of her speaking her language around her.
A ghost cult is a whole other level. I would watch that. Asher.
I didn't know that Flower was trying to form her own cult the whole time. I didn't realize.
She keeps getting distracted.
Yeah. I mean, look, Trevor is going to say time doesn't matter as long as you're hot, come on down, which is not the best for storytelling, but that would be Trevor's answer. I don't know. I would want, like, so is the idea that it would be something that is not represented in the cast?
Well, no, it could be represented in the case. You take it any way you want. I mean, Nicole asked the question, so Nicholas, sorry.
I don't think we have. I don't know, something from maybe like the early 1800s or something. Like that's me getting historical and wondering, like, ooh, what's the point of view of that person?
I like that you're actually putting thought into this.
I'm trying to. It's very hard.
Yeah, you could just go super soundbitey, and I don't know.
I don't have a.
Well, we can come back to you, Rebecca.
Well, I think that's interesting that earlier in the 19th century period, perhaps when Woodstone Mansion was actually built. I think there's also, I am always going to want to see more female, perspectives, and I think, in thinking and talking to Danielle Pinnock, who plays Alberta, about that whole suffragette storyline and women voting and feeling empowered to have a voice and all that stuff, which Hetty struggles with mightily. The beginning of the women's suffragette movement actually kind of began in Hetty's time period in that late 19th century period. Yet she's clearly in life was very much opposed to it. I would like to see more of where civil rights and where female empowerment kind of happened. There's an interesting window of time between when Alberta died and when Flower died that, I would love to see the Rosie the Riveter. I would love to see how the house was impacted during World War II and the civil rights movement. And I think that there's there's so many things about our show that are so fun and delightful and silly and comedic, and then there's an underbelly kind of in every show of things that really resonate. And our showrunners are taking really seriously taking a look at these often very fraught periods in American history. I think they're doing it responsibly and also with a light touch. So, boy, I really rambled there.
No,
No,
but I have a follow-up question to that as well. Is that we have this episode coming up where we learn a little bit more about Roman's Sass character, and having seen the episode, I will say that it's something the show does really well. It's poignant, it's heartfelt, and then we also we get a lot of character development out of that. So, Rebecca, can you kind of speak to that as well, and how that episode kind of plays into what you were just saying?
Well, I'm sad that Roman Zaragoza is not here to talk about it himself. I mean, he shines always, but this is such a great episode for him, and worth noting that the character of his father is played by his real life father, Gregory Zaragoza, who we were very lucky to have. Does anyone else want to speak about? I mean, I think the episode is called
Storyteller. So Ghostwriter.
Ghostwriter, yeah.
And it's a chance for Sasapis and Sam to find more of a closeness. They end up feeling very simpatico in terms of their sense of humor and how anal retentive they may be, and how they're both writers. And Roman got to delve into how his voice and feeling like he could thrive as a storyteller, how he got his voice, how he lost it, how he got it back, I think is kind of the point of that story, wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah. And sort of similar to Hetty discovering her voice as that character develops as well. And Devan, I passed over you, but what goes from what era would you like to encounter you, and maybe I don't know if Thorfinn's even thinking in terms of that. So how about
Thorfinn, you? He's a real deep cat, and he's a big fan of time travel. He started watching old reruns of what is that? Quantum Leap, and on the shows he was watching with Pete's character. And I think Thor would like to meet a guy from the future, maybe like a traveler from the future, comes in through like a Stargate, and then like arrives, and then like dies from something stupid like stepping on a rusty nail. And then he's stuck with us, and then Thor's got a future friend, because Thor's got all those, Thor likes being the oldest.
I love it.
Yeah.
Future ghost.
Future friend.
Well, I mentioned that to Sheila, the flower, she might want to meet other hippies and create her ghost cult. But what's kind of interesting is that we are seeing characters from the same eras interact, including, this question from the audience about Isaac and Nigel. We had this interaction with these two characters, contemporaries. Will we be seeing more of them, and just what does this interaction look like between Isaac and Nigel?
Well, yes. The answer is yes. We will be seeing more of them, and we'll see more of them a couple times throughout the rest of the season, which is really exciting. I think it is a really interesting opportunity for Isaac to have a ghost that he's contemporary with, and not only that, but a classic arch rival of, the British and American ghost situation. The classic situation is what is grandly referred to. But I really think that what's the most fun about their interaction right now is that at least Isaac is really tiptoeing around obviously some deeper feelings, and sometimes when you're dealing with something really challenging about identity, you probably look to somebody that can really help you, and you'd probably want to connect with somebody that would fully understand. And with Nigel, he's not there and capable of doing it, but in an upcoming episode, I always think that Isaac has a really nice relationship with Hetty, and even though they're from different time periods, I think they have similar values in a lot of ways. And they're able to use that particular relationship to really unpack a lot of the feelings and complex emotions Isaac is feeling for Nigel. And John Hartman, who plays Nigel, is just so great. So we're lucky to have him any single time that we get to see him on screen. So
Yeah, it's that what you speak of the interaction, the dynamic between Isaac and Hetty is both natural and surprising and really nice to watch. It's a really good interaction. I'm looking forward to everyone else seeing that. We do have this
a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Show Kitty in Hawaii asks, will there be any ghost cats or dogs introduced? Everybody, I don't know whether I want this or not. I feel bad for the ghost cat and dogs, but do you guys predict this happening at any point? Ghost pets?
I mean, logistically, it would be very hard, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, logistically, it would be really difficult, but I would imagine like a big cartoonish CGI ghost just roaming through the house could be really, really, really fun.
They were talking about bringing like a buffalo, like a big buffalo on, maybe a couple moose. I could have been talking about that to myself. Let me double check.
Well, not a ghost cat, but there is we know that there is a ghost in the attic that we have not yet met. Her name is Odessa, and the Joes teased out.
She is a peacock.
Wrong network. What can we tease about Odessa and the I guess prom that's going to be taking place that the Joes told me about earlier? Anyone want to weigh in on that?
Are we allowed to speak about the opening of that episode? I mean, because there's some I won't get specific, but there's some classic kind of.
Yes, you are.
The answer is yes.
You may.
Oh.
You may.
We have the word from on high, also known as the network publicist, which is the word from on high.
Okay, we're being watched, basically, is what you're saying. There's I want someone else to tell this story because the opening is just so juicy and classic in terms, and I think at this point in the season, you're just so ready to see this kind of tip of the hat to classic horror kind of tropes. So someone take that ball and tell about it because it's so fun. I found it delicious.
What is the openings? Wait,
that's how we do it.
I can't answer this for you guys. I don't know.
I just remembered. No, it's like this. Yeah, the open. It's almost it'll be like a very unique cold open to our show because it'll be almost like it's another time period joining our show, and it's isolated in a way that you're almost watching like a little mini movie. And it's as Rebecca said, it's like the most classic tip to actual horror that we've had in the show. And Odessa Azion, who's I think I'm pronouncing that right. She's a guest starring, and she's so freaking funny, and she's so good, and she plays this character who's a real classic 80s teen. I'm allowed to say all this stuff, and I don't know why I felt like the need to reconfirm that, but she's hilarious, and it's just we're gonna be able to have that energy that plays with all of our characters who are tired and going crazy, and she just pops in and out. She's gonna be so fun, and I really am excited for that episode.
She has a crush on someone. She has a crush on one of the ghosts. I'm not going to say who, but she has a crush on one of the ghosts, and so
she absolutely does.
Yeah, she's great. Her character really brings in a new dynamic to the group of ghosts as well that I think we didn't even know we needed. It was really fun to play scenes with her. Yeah. But what I'm really excited about too is that this episode digs in a little bit into some of Sam's backstory, and something that she's kind of always struggled with. So Rose McIver is obviously, she's such a wonderful Sam for us and always so grounded in all of these scenes, but she's also a really gifted physical comedian, and she gets to do some really fun stuff in this episode. I'm really excited about it.
She does.
Yeah, there's an excellent flashback for Rose in, that I think the fans are going to really enjoy.
Which I think is the only flashback we've had with Rose. So she gets one too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
There's
great.
also a scene in this episode. It's Utkarsh, Rose, and myself, and Rose is doing something physically, like you speak to her physical comedy, that made me laugh so hard. I was dying laughing, and I cannot wait to see it cut together. It was so funny, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Richie, I'm sorry, that scene has been cut entirely.
Great. Great. That's perfect.
Well, I think we're winding down on time. So first off, let me ask, if you had a haunted B&B, would you publicize it as haunted, and should Sam and Jay? I'll go across the board. Sheila.
Yes, I think so. I think there's a lot of people out there that want to connect with spirits and ghosts, and it would just be a really fun way to earn some cash.
Okay, Brandon.
With this group of ghosts, I wouldn't publicize it. But we're too punch drunk as a crew. But I do think it would be good for business if they were to try.
Okay, Richie.
Yeah, you got to.
Okay, Rebecca.
Well, isn't there a whole, like, don't people get MBAs or whatnot in targeted marketing? I mean, there's certain people that for whom this would be a tremendous draw. And then there's others that's what we need on the show, is a marketer for the B&B.
I mean, people pay big money for it. I mean, ghosts are good for business. They pay for the room with the boo. Asher.
Listen, as a business expert, obviously the answer is yes.
Devan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you how do you go about doing it? You just come out in front, or do you let people come, have experiences, and then tell people, get a lot of buzz, and then relabel? Like, how do you transition the market? You just come out and say, hey, it's haunted, take us at face value. Or do you get some, like, grassroots movement going? Like, people are like, what's going on here? Don't go here. Don't go here. And they're like, yeah, you're right.
Well, they could publicize it as, yes, but they're all very friendly ghosts. And we don't like the idea because it brings too many people to the inn. And so we decide that we're going to have to be very mean ghosts for an episode, but we just can't keep it up. We can't keep up with that.
Joe, Rebecca's got an idea. Rebecca has an idea, Joe.
Other Joe? Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
I mean, I like it. You could really have like multiple honeymoon suites, except stay with the Viking ghost, stay with the pantsless ghost, stay with the
Brandon just had an idea. Big idea.
No, I was gonna say what an interesting idea that they choose to like theme the rooms around the ghosts that live there.
Right, so when Aaron says it, you like the idea?
Yes, Rebecca.
He's just catering to the journalist. It's a classic move. Classic. It's like saying, great question, Aaron.
We almost got through an interview without Aaron. Rebecca and Brandon fighting.
Exactly. Well, you should stop instigating.
We are over time, but I want to ask one more question. Final question. If you were able to make up a secondary ghost power for season 2, what would it be? I'm going to start with Devan this one. Secondary ghost power season 2, what is it?
Oh, so secondary power, tickle fighting. I don't know. What are we talking about here? You can't put me on the spot like that. I just want to do little tickles on some people.
That's a pull quote for this interview. Asher.
I think I'd like to strengthen what I have, but because it has to be a power that doesn't have a lot of control. I'd like people to be able to see me for 2 seconds and then gone.
Ooh.
Sort of like the Bill Murray moment. Like, you'll never believe that it happened kind of thing.
Yeah. 2 seconds in, you see it, and then I'm out, and I can only do it in spurts for 2 seconds.
Gotcha.
So you'd be a flasher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Very fitting.
Rebecca.
I think that we should be allowed to eat one thing one time a year.
Like Slimer.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Richie.
We don't know what Pete's power is yet, but I think like Alberta can project her humming into the world of the living. Maybe Pete can project his Bill Cosby impression into the world of the living, and he has no idea that that's problematic. So we'll go through a whole process of him finding out that, like, hey, you actually can't do that voice. Like, you definitely can't do that for multiple reasons.
Oh, I love that.
I want to change my vote.
Joe?
Oh my. Sheila.
I would be able to do telepathy with ghosts on other properties. So that we could communicate. Maybe there's like a 50-mile radius. I don't know, but it'd be really nice to make some connections.
Yeah.
Like a phone call
to the dead.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to watch this show. I find it to be such a delight, and you guys are a delight to watch on screen, and you're also a delight to interview also on screen. But Sheila, Brandon, Richie, Rebecca, Asher, Devan, thank you guys for your time and for joining me. And as I said, we have new episodes of Ghosts returning February 24th. Ghost airs on CBS on Thursdays at 9 p.m. 8 Central and streams on Paramount Plus. And thank you guys for joining, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We have more Talking Strange on the way with guests such as actor Rhys Darby of the new Taika Waititi show, Our Flag Means Death, the Suicide Squad's David Dastmalchian, who has a new Count Crowley horror comic book on the way, and the cast of Expedition Bigfoot and the master of lore himself, Aaron Mankey. Thank you for joining. And hey, also give me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, on Patreon. Watch the interviews at youtube.com/denofgeekus and download Talking Strange every week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until next time, be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.